Good afternoon. My name's Tom Moreno. I'm chairman of the Legislative Committee, and I'm calling the meeting to order right now. It is Tuesday, September 30th, 2020. It's 4:30 in the afternoon, and we're in the council chambers here in Wisconsin Rapids. So with that, I'll go around the room and people can introduce themselves. Ed?
Thad Kubishek, Legislative Committee member.
G. Bemke, Alderman.
Shane Blazer, Mayor.
Jim?
Jennifer Gossick, City Clerk.
Scott Kellogg, Alderperson.
Okay, and with that, we'll go to item 2, and that's to review and consider for adoption an ordinance amending Chapter 22 of the Municipal Code to authorize the city clerk and deputy clerk as designated officials to issue beverage operator licenses as had been recently allowed by a change in state law. Sue, do you want to address that at all, to start with?
Sure. There was recently a change in state law which would allow for the municipality or the governing body to designate an employee to issue beverage operator licenses. These are the licenses that go to the sales clerk and the bartenders and so on. So if the council so wishes, we would change the ordinance to allow, to have the municipality designate the clerk and the deputy clerk as officials who can issue those licenses. There still would be the application and the process of the application, and if the police chief, as is the policy now, if the police chief recommends denial based on the guidelines, then the clerk would then deny, and then there would be an appeal to the Common Council, and the Common Council could approve the license application. I don't know if Jennifer wants to speak to that.
Anybody have any questions or anything? Or Jennifer, did you want to say anything?
Can you hear me if I speak through this? Okay. Yeah, I think we had, right now what we do is, of course, it goes to the police chief and then it goes to finance and property, and then to common council. If you guys are okay with it, I would be more than happy to go ahead and approve based on the police chief's recommendation. And it would speed up the process as far as the licensee is concerned. Instead of having to issue a provisional license, which is good for 60 days, they could potentially get their license within a couple of days instead of a couple of weeks. Anybody have any questions?
I think this is a long overdue, good idea. I think it speeds up the process. I think it makes it more efficient of the clerk's office time. I support it.
I agree to some degree. It speeds up the process, and we seem to go through it every month, and the chief agrees with it, and the city clerk, but it bypasses the council in the sense that what happens if there's a concern that the community has expressed with a particular business, and it bypasses us, and we're responsible to the community. So let's say it's approved by the city clerk, and all of a sudden we get calls as a common council member as to why was this approved and it shouldn't be, and we've had these problems and so forth, and we didn't know about it, and then all of a sudden it was approved. And I agree with the efficiency of it. I agree with, it seems to be, we rubber stamp because it has been a good process. But I'm concerned about those unique circumstances that could surface that all of a sudden now we don't have any responsibility and something's approved, then all of a sudden we have to answer to it. And I rather answer to the common council than to answer because the city clerk approved it. Not saying that, those are the concerns I have.
Do you have anything with that?
Yeah, these are licenses just for it's not for a business. They're not retail licenses for businesses or premises. These are for the bartenders and the quick trip clerk and so on. So, and there's specific guidelines in terms of the approval of those licenses and whether there are disqualifying convictions that would recommend them for denial. So, and that's really the only, for lack of a better word, valid basis to deny someone's application. So it really is, I don't want to say there wasn't any real discretion before, because there was, but it's really limited to the circumstances of the applicant and whether they have any, previous convictions for certain offenses. So in the past, what happened was these people would file, they would file an application, the clerk would need to get it to finance. Finance would review, and basically you were just reviewing to see if any of them were denied by the police chief or recommended denied, and then they would be denied, and then it would go to the council, and really the council really was already kind of acting as an appellate body. The council was basically in every instance rubber stamping an approval, and in limited instances when finance would recommend denial, we allowed for the appeal at the end of the council meeting right away for that applicant, and then you could, so I guess I just want to make it clear that it's not the businesses that these licenses are talking about, it's for those individuals, and there are specific guidelines regarding the approval. It's, but I don't know, if Jennifer, you have anything to add on that, but that's, I don't think we've ever had an instance where the clerk and finance have recommended approval when, let's say there's a drug bust or something at the location. I mean, there are certain instances where those can be revoked, obviously, those licenses that were granted, but otherwise it's based on their criminal record at the time of application, and those are reviewed by the police department, and a recommendation is made.
Does that help, Scott?
I use the word business, but I realize this for sale of liquor and so forth. It's just one thing that we're giving up, and that we may regret at some point in time, because I've never been in this. I've been on the council for about 9 years. I never had a situation where you turn it down. So, but I'm saying there might be in the future, and I don't know. It's just something I wanted to share that I was thinking about. That's all.
Okay. Thad?
Mr. Kellogg, I guess one thing that kind of popped into my head is that we've got the ability to overturn this act at any time. It's just, it isn't so that it's a snapshot in time and then now we've given it away forever. So if there is ever a situation where we want to grab that back, we've got the ability to have a legislative committee meeting and put it on the council. So that's one of the cool things. Like you said, I mean, how many times has there ever been a revocation or anything? If it's a streamlined process, if this means that we can get either a tavern or a grocery store to apply for a couple more, and then we get our extra $35 per person, that's more money in our coffers. So I think, by streamlining it, I guess that's where I'm at. But you're right. I will support you the next time, or if there is a situation where we need to bring this back to the council's decision, absolutely on that.
Jennifer?
Just one note on the timing. These licenses are for a 2-year period, and then they have to go through the renewal process where you have a second opportunity to review them. And if they're within that 2-year period, they all end on the same date. So for instance, the period we're in now started July 1st of this year. It ends June 30th of 2022. So all the way up until June 29th of 2022, they're all within that same licensing period. So there would be opportunity to review them again at the end of that licensing period and address any concerns at that time too, if that helps.
Thank you. And I think I forgot to introduce that Alderperson Scott Kolth is on the phone. He's a member of the committee too, so he'll be. Steve, do you have anything to add?
No, I agree with the remarks that have been made so far that we certainly have the power to walk this back if we need to, but it seems like it'd be a pretty good tool for the clerk's office to get things moving along. Did that come over, Tom?
Okay. If there's nothing else, committee, then what would be your wishes?
I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second that. And then committee will vote on that. All in favor respond by aye.
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Votes 3-0.
Was that 4 ayes? Did Steve have 2 votes there?
3. Okay, thanks. And with that, then, item number 3, review and consider for adoption an ordinance amending Chapter 23 of the Municipal Code to eliminate the Reserve Class B retail alcohol license grant program because of changes in state law which now prohibit such grants. Sue?
Right, and in reviewing the alcohol ordinance, I noted that we needed to, because of a change in state law, that eliminated the ability of the municipality to give a grant for a reserve alcohol license. Back, it's probably been 10 years now, when the reserve licenses were set at $10,000 by state law. Some municipalities, including Wisconsin Rapids, decided to do a grant program that would basically, in essence, refund the grant money back to the applicant if they put the money into their, made capital improvements to the business at the time of applying for the reserve license. We did issue, I think, about three grants, I would say. I think community theater may have had one at one point. I know the wine place off of Pepper there, can't remember her name, Betsy's, got one, and I think there was a third. So, we did use it. However, the state law has changed recently to taking out the ability to refund those monies in any way, especially through a grant program. So this is just cleaning up that ordinance, eliminating the grant program to be consistent with state law.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Sue? If not, committee, what would be your wishes on this?
I make a motion for
Make a motion to,
I'll let Steve do it.
I'll second.
Thad made the motion, Steve seconded. Committee will vote. All in favor respond by aye.
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 The vote is 3-0 in favor. Thank you. And with that, we'll go to item number 4. Review and consider for adoption an ordinance amending Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code to reflect current state administrative code and state statutes, SPS-Chapter 316 and Section 101.80 Wisconsin statutes, necessary because the city is requesting designation as an electrical inspection agency. Jim, or do you guys have anything that?
Actually, this would be Kyle Kearns, and he is on the phone, I believe.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
So this is in response to the state requiring that all delegated inspection agencies adopt SPS 316 and other applicable codes to be an electrical inspection agency. Our existing code, Chapter 17, hasn't been updated in quite a while and doesn't meet the state's requirements. And so we need to, one, make several code references, which I've done in a draft form as part of the packet, citing these applicable state codes. And then two, it also obviously solidifies our delegation as an inspection agency and allows us to continue to contract with an electrical inspection agent, and ours is on the phone as well, Ron Janikowski. If you have specific questions into our operation or his duties with the city, he can certainly answer those too. But essentially, again, this is just cleaning up, our electrical code and then making it consistent with the state's requirements.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Hearing none, committee, any comments or what would be your wishes?
I'll make a motion to amend Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code as presented.
I'll second that. Committee, if there's no other further discussion or anything, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. The ayes have it 3-0. With that, item number 5, and that's consider referral from Alderperson Rayholm for review of all committees, commissions, and boards. Specific consideration of A, Park and Rec Commission responsibilities as requested by Park and Recreation Committee. B, consider elimination of the following committees who have not met in years as requested to be reviewed by Mayor Blazer. That's ADA Advisory, Redevelopment Authority, Hazmat, Industrial Development Commission. And we'll start with A, and that's the Park and Recreation Committee, Commission responsibilities.
Tom, can I speak?
Yes.
In my time on council, I've been kind of watching a lot of this stuff go back and forth. I know you and I both sit on the Park and Recreation Committee, and I think there's often some confusion amongst all of us as alderpersons as to what we can do. Like I'll take, for example, the water park. Earlier this year, it was the Property and Finance Committee, I think I want to say back in like February, we set the rates for the water park that were recommended to us. And then later this year, I want to say it was probably around our July meeting or our August Property and Finance Committee meeting, we were looking at the water park rates again. And then it was pointed out that there was a city ordinance that says that duty fell to the Park and Recs Commission. So I think there's some confusion, and I'm glad this item's on the agenda because there's some confusion as to like who has the ultimate power, and if indeed the Parks and Rec Commission would have that power to set the rates to the aquatic facility, then what's the council's involvement with it? If like a commission would set a rate for the water park too high or too low, does the council have any appellate ability to override that commission's decision, or do you resend it back through the commission to get it looked at again? And also, not to take up too much time here on this, but it also is like with our planning commission too. every month the minutes from the planning commission's read at council, and sometimes we can change the things that are presented by the planning commission, other times we can't. So I think this is a really good opportunity for us to look at this and figure out exactly what power the commissions do have, if they are standalone commissions, if what they say goes, and if what comes out of those commissions isn't agreed to, if it gets sent back through those commissions to look at again, or if the council as a whole has any appellate authority over anything that the commissions do.
Thank you, Steve. Sue, would you have a comment to that, I guess, or your legal comment maybe?
Well, I guess maybe my question would be back to the committee is how do you want it to be? As it is written now, for the most part, a lot of the jurisdiction of the Park and Rec Commission is it's not advisory, it is final. That's why at the end of your meeting where you have those reports, those aren't reports that you can like pull an item out and make a different decision on. Those are reports that the majority or those bodies are somewhat independent, or you have delegated your responsibility on certain matters to those committees or commissions. But over time, we've never had a big aquatic center before. It involved bonding and debt, and so I think those, and signing a contract with the architect and choosing a contractor, those items were taken to finance and not to Park and Rec. It could be argued by Park and Rec Commission that, hey, that's an aquatic center and it's a park and it's something that we should have a say in. So, I probably was a lot of times people would ask me, well, should this go to Park and Rec or should it go to Finance? And I guess I just try to make the best decision based on maybe what's happened in the past, what the issues are, if it's something that's budgeted or not. So I probably I do take responsibility for maybe the ambiguity of what Park and Rec is doing and what Finance is doing. So, and I think the ordinance as it's written is not entirely clear, and I think the bottom line, though, is I think it should be written as the council wants it to be. Do you want to delegate everything regarding parks to the Park and Rec Commission? Do you want them to be advisory to you on some matters? Do you want them to be able to do contracts for things that happen in the parks? I guess that's my thinking, rather than trying to kind of figure out what it does say. I'd be happy to kind of go through that also, but I think, especially even Park and Rec, they were not, at least some of them at the last meeting that I was at, they weren't really totally comfortable with a lot, all of that responsibility of total supervision and control of certain parts, so, and the aquatic center. So I think they were looking to you and the council to maybe have some conversation about, what are their limits, what is their role and responsibility, what are the things that you want a final say on, and what are the things that you want to just delegate to them. So what I could do is, look, and I have done in the past, I've looked at other municipalities and they're kind of all over the board in terms of the authority that's given to their commissions and, final authority. And I think honestly, it kind of ebbs and flows with the commission themselves. I know for a time it was difficult to even get a quorum, and they did not meet for months, and maybe the interest level of the commission was not as high as they are now, and now I think they're very engaged and wanting to really be involved, and that's great. And so then now all these questions are coming up of they want to really know what their role is. And so I guess we can work with the language we have, and I can interpret that, and each time something comes up, try to make the best decision on where things go, or I think it would be best to have a good conversation over what you think should be their authority and what is yours. So I don't know if anybody else has thoughts on that, but.
Thank you. Jay?
I just have a question. Well, I have two questions. One kind of related to what Sue just went through. You use the example of the aquatic center. What if the Park and Rec Commission recommended that? I'm assuming that would still, because there's bonding and money involved, it would still have to go through finance and the council, correct?
Right. Well, the bonding and right.
So what happens if Park and Rec approves the project and finance says no?
Well, I would think then that, finance still has some, general, I would argue some general control over them to the extent that, obviously if you're not, if they could decide to do something but you don't fund it, then obviously it's probably not going to happen. They still can only do things within what their budget is. So if their budget did not contain monies for an aquatic center, then they really couldn't, contract for an aquatic center. But I guess these are the types of questions that I ideally would get kind of cleaned up in some better language in terms of what their role is.
I have one more question. And as I went through this, there's a number of these committees. Can you tell me why we have non-residents are allowed to be on these commissions and boards? I understand if it's a matter of staff and they don't live in town, but
Yeah, that's just I can't, that's the way it's been done. I think that we have on a couple of committees recently made, or at least narrowed the non-residents. I think planning, you at least have to have property in the city, and that's limited to just to two, and the rest have to be residents. The issue is that our ordinance provides that it might say that you have citizens, and citizens is interpreted to being a citizen of the state of Wisconsin and not a resident. So in every instance where it just says, if it doesn't say specifically resident, then the interpretation is it can be a non-resident. So I personally agree that I think the vast majority of these should be residents, and that's something that you could change if you wanted to. I think water and light was changed to specifically be residents recently when there was a change in that ordinance, but yeah, that's certainly something to consider, that if you want to change those
okay, thank you.
memberships.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor?
Thank you. I do agree with the residency. I only seek out residents to appoint committees. I think it's important. However, with Park and Rec Commission, the mayor gets an appointment and the council gets an appointment on there. So there's already two council people on that commission for some connection and oversight for the council. I agree with Sue that the language needs to be cleaned up. But what I find, excuse me, is that if I'm looking to appoint somebody in a committee and it's just kind of, an advisory or some type of committee like that, it's harder because people, when they commit to be a part of a committee, they want to be a part of it and they want to actually feel like they're making a difference versus just, well, we're there for a show or anything like that. So I think it's important to, especially with the Park and Rec Commission, since we're talking about that one, we have a very active and a commission that wants to be involved. But further on the aquatics type situation, I think that's where it's a city, it's a government, it's bonding. That's something that the council needs to decide. And then once that's completed, then the keys can be turned over to the Park and Rec Commission and they can take care of the daily operation. Not that they want to be in the daily operations, but, because we do have staff to do that, but set fees, make some of those decisions after the fact. But I don't think they would be the ones that would recommend to do the borrowing or I think they could be part of that process. But once it's built and constructed, then the keys can be turned over. But currently our ordinance definitely needs some cleaning up and adjusting, but I think it's important to give them that opportunity and I guess control or authority over Park and Rec. Otherwise, then we might as well eliminate the commission and then have city council do that. I think it's fair that, if we're going to have that commission, they should be able to be active and involved and make those decisions because they want to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's been one of the things with this commission, that it's been a very good commission, working commission. Ones that are on it participate and are actively involved, very concerned about our parks situation here in the city. Should it just be residents? In this case, maybe because of how the funding has been done with the aquatic center, that may be something to look at. The one that's is included on there, the mayor, but is the school superintendent. And so that's an automatic one, and they don't reside in the city, or not always. They can, or they may not. So that would be something maybe to look at if we were to look at residents, but would it include an automatic whoever the school superintendent would be, or just or to change that too. So I think we need some. If it's cleaning up, it's to clean up. But I think there are some on the commission who are very very concerned that them making decisions and that it goes to the council and it gets reversed. And I don't think it has to do with if it'd be the building of a new swimming pool, if it had to do with the raising the money, the bonding or whatever for it. It doesn't have to do, their questions doesn't come with that. It's, I think, more or less the overseeing decisions that they make, such as if the park maybe should be open or not open, when it's open, or fees that are charged and that type of things. I think decision, those types of decisions, and there's probably others that aren't coming out of my head right now, but so it's they are involved, actively involved, and they would like to have more of what their decisions are that would be. But obviously the monetary part would have to come, through the budget procedure and that type of thing. And they are interested in being involved, or at least seeing what the proposed budget is. They'd like to have that, and I think at this next Park and Rec meeting, it's going to be brought back to them for them to see what's there on the plate for looking at for the next year to operate. And I think, decision making as far as when I said open the parks and that, but in here it even has in responsibilities is this, it says has complete charge and supervision and that, and I don't think they're looking at the day-to-day operation of telling who to run, but some decision making in what they think, how it should be, but who carries it out is up to our staff and that to do. So it's if it may be to look at what other communities have, as Sue mentioned, and to look at how to rewrite this to clarify things that are there, because as you do read some, as I just said, the one responsibilities, which isn't in the ordinance necessarily per se, but where it says has complete charge, it's a clarification of what something like that would actually mean. So I guess, does anybody have any other comments?
Can I chime in?
Oh. Yes, go ahead.
In my own opinion on this, I don't have any problems with any of the commissions having the authority to make decision. But what what I do feel is right is some sort of like a check and balance or some sort of an appellate authority, just kind of like how we're set up on council. I mean, if our Public Works Committee approves building a road, the Public Works Committee by itself doesn't approve building that road. It goes to the full common council for consideration by all the members of the council. So if the residents don't like that decision that a road's going to get rebuilt, they can go contact their alderman and speak for or against what they want to do. And I guess my only thing on this is for any commission to just be able to put down what they say goes with no check or balance or any sort of an appeal process. I would just be a little concerned about that. I mean, in the time I've been on council, I haven't seen too many things come from any of the other commissions that have been really questioned or pulled apart. I mean, we've never said anything about the Housing Commission. We've never pulled anything apart about the Library Commission. And even at that, I don't think we've really ever pulled apart too many things from the Park and Rec Commission. I just know, like, setting the rates it went through Property and Finance earlier this year, and then we found out it should go to Parks and Rec. I'm okay with giving the commission the ability to act on the stuff, all of it, if they want. That's within the scope of their authority. I would just hope that there's a check or balance or some sort of way to like get the decision looked at, so it's not just like if it happens at that commission meeting, it's done, it's over with, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. I think so anyway. Thad, did you have anything? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I think one of the things that we need to be cognizant about is that, and I don't think anybody's doing this intentionally, but there's a difference between citizen commissions, boards, and standing committees or council committees. And again, what is the reason why we have citizen committees? I'm the one now screwing it up. Citizen commissions. Commissions are designed for advisory purposes, but they're also designed to take politics out of it. For example, library board. Library boards under state statute are very strong, specifically to remove politics out of it. So it can't be 3 people get elected to the city council, now we're going to make changes to the library. It's designed for the purpose of what a library is for, providing literacy. And nowadays multimedia and everything else with that. But similarly to a police and fire commission, it takes politics out. A mayor cannot unilaterally, a council cannot unilaterally make decisions with police and fire without the police and fire commission. And in under state statute, any community or any city or municipality with more than a 5,000 population has to have a police and fire commission. There's specific language for plan commissions, but then the question is, well, people residing from outside of the municipality, with a plan commission, there's a requirement for someone to have certain knowledge of planning activities, whether it's having an engineering degree. If you're an engineer in town, that's great, or if you work construction, or if you've got other knowledge of building and planning and other things. The state statute language seeks someone for that, and that's the reason why we would seek somebody from outside of the municipality if we don't have anybody that's interested inside the municipality. And that kind of goes with parks, because just because we pay for our parks in the city of Wisconsin Rapids doesn't mean people from Port Edwards or Grand Rapids or Stevens Point or anybody can't come down and enjoy it, or even not only enjoy our parks, but actually want to help out, want to do something great. So I'm always in favor of looking at city of Wisconsin Rapids people first for being on a citizen commission, but I don't think that it needs to be an absolute prohibition of anybody else, because I think that's what a citizen commission is for. So if we're looking at the Parks Commission, I like the idea that I'm hearing, that everybody is excited, and wanting to do things, but then kind of pulling it back to what Mr. Cole kind of talked about, is that there obviously needs to be checks and balances. And before we put anything into stone maybe that's one thing that we need to look at, is what we're going to be potentially voting on, especially as far as the Parks Commission is concerned. Because of that, where is that? Where do we draw the line? Is it, and that's one thing too, Mr. Rayom, that I agree with you, is that the commission isn't designed specifically for day-to-day activity. That's what staff is for. That's why we have department heads, to manage departments and to run day-to-day activities. What this Parks Commission should be designed for, and I think that they're doing it, but the Parks Commission should be a visionary, should be able to create this path, 6 months, a 2-year, a 5-year path, looking down the road of what we've got for parks in the city and where we want to go and what new ideas we can think of. And those are the people that aren't elected to the city council, who may or may not have a specific agenda and worried about getting voted out of office and different things like that. There is a checks and balance for commission members because they're going to be appointed by the mayor, and then they're confirmed by the council, so there's a check and balance there themselves, and actually just the check and balance of them wanting to sit on a citizen commission in the first place and not get paid to do it and have to, take up one or two evenings a month or however long it takes to do it. So, I'm not too worried about checks and balances, but we need to get the language what we want. That's the one thing that we as a council have the ability, is to write what we want to see on that. So I think maybe from what it almost sounds like, we've got kind of the cart in front of the horse. We kind of got an idea of what we want, but we need that language first to be able to vote on it. And I've kind of repeated this in the past, where we're a legislative body, we vote up or down. If someone wants changes to this, and maybe, I don't know, Mr. Mayor, if this is what, because there's a referral by yourself, but hey, throw us some substance, say, hey, this is where we should be going, and then we can vote up or down. I don't know, instead of us trying to reinvent the wheel right here. Is that, maybe I'm missing the whole thing. Maybe I'm the one that is confused, but it's like we should have some substance, and then we can vote up or down what we want.
Yeah, and I agree that tonight to maybe make a decision on this, what we have in front of us in writing, I think there needs to be the clarification. I think that Sue mentioned too, and maybe it'd be good to see what other communities have for what they do for the Parks Department and that, and to see about clarifying some of these, I think, with the input that has been offered here this evening, and that members of Park and Rec Commission, if they have anything that they could lend to. I think a big thing has been I hate to use the word authority, but where does it, what do they really get to do? What are their duties? And I think to clarify what that is would be a big help to define it, and with the oversight of the council and that, and some I think there's some concern that what does it matter for what the decision we make, if the council's going to overturn it. But I think if it's clarified in that, what their duties would be, and that obviously that if to be an oversight of that commission, that may help to alleviate some of the concerns that some of the members have on the commission. So I would think that this might be something that we send back to see, to get more information and with other communities, and to clarify and more define of what we have in our ordinance and what the duties are in that of the commission in this, for this particular commission. Does anybody have anything else? Committee, would it be okay that we just hold this over, referred back to do some more clarification as we see needed, and then try to come back with some type of language that could be possibly voted on, if there is a change that would be made in that, I'm not saying there would be a change, if there is, for whatever, so to come back at a future date to this committee.
I'm okay with that, Tom.
That's okay?
I'm okay with it.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay. Okay, Steve, we'll use yours as a motion. We have a motion and a second to refer that for more study and to bring it back to the committee at a future date. Committee will vote. All in favor, respond by aye.
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 Opposed, ayes have it, 3-0. Thank you. Almost skipped over. Item B under that. And that's to consider elimination of the following committees who have not met in years, as requested by the mayor. That's the ADA Advisory, Redevelopment Authority, Hazmat, and Industrial Development Commission. Mayor, would you like to speak to that first?
Sure. As I was going through looking to make appointments to various commissions and committees, there are a number of them that have not met. And I think there's some in here that since my involvement since the late 90s, have never met. And it's difficult to find people wanting to serve on a committee that never meets. So I thought maybe this is a good time to look at potentially eliminating some of these and not wasting people's time and to sit on a committee and get frustrated because they never do meet. And I see city attorney put together a good snapshot of committees that are required and not required. So I'm just kind of looking to see what the council wants to do about some of these.
Which ones were the ones that are, I guess, I'm looking through the council pack or that legislative pack.
So the ADA committee is not required. And the hazmat committee is not required. School crossing guard committee is not required. They've never met. So I find that when I call people and ask if they want to serve on a committee and they'll ask how often do they meet, and I say never, usually people don't really want to volunteer to serve on it. Maybe that might be a good thing, but.
Steve?
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem eliminating the committees that we are not required statutorily to have. And like some of these, like hazmat, if we're not required to have it, that can almost like whatever the duties of that committee were, something like that would probably just fall to the planning commission anyways, because it seems like that's where a lot of the stuff is going through, or if it doesn't go to that commission, it'd probably come up through public works. So if a lot of the duties from these committees that haven't met in years, if we don't, there's no use having them if they haven't met in years and we're not obligated to have them. I'm sure the duties from those committees, we could just reassign them to the standing committees and commissions that we do have and go from there.
Mayor?
Yeah, like industrial development, that's something that finance and property can handle. And just as another example. I think the one that surprised me was, I think redevelopment, that's required. If I recall right, Sue?
Well, it's required if you have programming or grants or that the authority is in essence responsible for, but I don't know if, because we have those housing loans, if we still would need one, but it's actually a good vehicle to get grants, so I think
Okay.
at least it might be good just to at least have that structure in case it's needed for, certain funding. But I can look further at that. That was one that I As I said, I don't know if the loans, we have CAP Services handles the administration of the loans that are run through that authority, so, and I think they pretty much are just administering that without needing the authority to make any decisions, so the redevelopment authority. So I can follow up on that one. I think that might be one that we might want to just at least have in place in the event that we want to take advantage of that vehicle to, for grants or other purposes.
Mayor?
Yeah, I see that under a current committee, there's one person who has not expired. There's 3 people that are expired. There's 2 vacancies. So maybe even if we could change, it says 7 members, if we can maybe see if we can make it like a 3-member, or I don't know if statutorily there's a size limit, but if we can even reduce the size.
Right, I think it is set by statute at 7.
Okay.
But I'll follow up with that. That was one that when I listed it on the agenda, I had forgotten that might be something that we would need to keep, but I can follow up with that one and for your next meeting to let you know if that's needed and how we can handle that one, the redevelopment authority.
Steve, do you have anything else?
Oh, no, I don't. Thank you.
Well, the person Kubishak is coming back into the room here, so we'll wait a few seconds here. Ted, do you have anything to say? Okay. Commission, what would your recommendation be, or at this point in time?
I'd make a motion to eliminate the committees that have not met, that are not statutorily required for us to keep, and reassign those duties to an appropriate standing committee or commission.
I'll second that.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll go along with that, and I think what we're just this evening just going over these 4 that we're addressing. That's on the agenda, so there may be others as we go further, down the road with future meetings. I just don't want the duties of what these have that they just fall by the wayside. So if they have to be incorporated into another commission or something, that they be done, or if between now and the council meeting that we find out that maybe we have to keep it or should keep it, that we can reverse it at the council meeting in a couple weeks. So we have a motion and Steve?
I know we haven't voted on it yet, but also I'm not going to amend the motion, but I think it would just be helpful, like if we do eliminate these commissions, like, if Industrial Development Commission, and we move what that commission did over to the Planning Commission, that we note when the Planning Commission gets the duties of what their commission are, and the new ones are added, that it's just noted like this was formerly Industrial Development Commission duty. So when they do get it, that they're not looking at it and say, well, this isn't really in the scope of our authority. We should create a Industrial Development Commission, so we're not getting rid of it only for it to come back again, if that makes sense.
Yep. We'll redefine it in another part of another ordinance under a different committee or commission, wherever it ends up. So if there's nothing else, committee will vote. All in favor, respond by aye.
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 Okay. Opposed, the ayes have it, 3-0. And with that, we can move on to item 6, Mayor, the review and consider for approval an ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Municipal Code to remove the Mayor's Youth Council as a subunit of the council. The council would continue as an informal group. Mayor?
Thank you. Yeah, finding out, it's a youth group, and it's very formal. The meetings are agended, minutes are taken. They have to be public so anybody can attend. And I guess coming into this, it just seemed overly very formal. And, there's times where we'll only have one youth member there. And so what I thought it'd just be simpler that we continue on without such a formal status, but still continue on and the mission still be the same. So we I don't know, last time we've had anybody involved on the council level also. It's just hard for youth to always commit and participate on that kind of level, but they do want to be involved, especially more towards the project end of it and doing those type of things. But the formality just seems overly formal for a youth group. Any questions?
Would there be some type of an agenda, though, Mayor, for the meeting?
Yeah, we could, and I can include the aldermen on that if people are interested in that. If the aldermen want to be informed more so about that, we could continue to do that, but it just wouldn't be a publicly noticed agenda where anybody from the public can attend the meeting.
I haven't gone to one for a period of time, but I used to drop in occasionally and either stay for part of the meeting or listen just to see what, what was going on. Actually, there were a couple times that they had participated in what they were doing. One time, I know after we left the tour of the aquatic center, they stopped at the old East Junior High for a meeting, and they had broke into different groups and that, and talked about different things, and then they reported back into the council what they had discussed in their group. Scott, I know, has been to a few too. I don't know if he has been lately because I haven't been, so I really don't know who's all been there. But I would like to see it continue. And I think this group actually was, or the kids were, but so this group were other kids, but actually involved with helping to raise money for the fireworks and that type of thing. Was this group involved with that, or was that just a separate?
I think that was a separate group through Encourage back in the day.
Okay.
Also, I find out, we're struggling because we've been taking applications, and being that most clubs at the high school meet during the day, and so we're competing against all the athletics and those type of things for recruitment end of it, which is making it also makes it difficult because we are after school hours. And trying to get them to, kids involved after school with their extracurricular activities and sports and those type of things. But yeah, I agree. I think it's important. I think it's important for the youth to have that outlet to learn. And also they do enjoy doing projects, and that's been a big part of it.
Anybody have anything else? Alderperson Kubischat.
I guess, thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I guess the question for you, Mr. Mayor, is, I guess I could kind of see both sides of it. One side, it wouldn't be terrible if we continued down the way that it was, being a public meeting so that the council can be aware of it. On the other hand, staff meetings are not public. If the department head was talking with his or her department, that's not a public meeting. Public is not invited to that. It's a meeting that gets done. So then the question is there any deterrence from it being a public meeting? Like, are there maybe some concerns with kids or maybe the kids as parents that, stuff is going to be published. Because if that's the case where we want, and I don't want to use the word efficiency because we talked about that earlier with the bartender's licenses, but if it's a case where we want to be efficient and effective and having a body where these young leaders, future leaders are going to be getting involved with local government, and I think that's one of the challenges too with civics and everything else. I think what we would want to do, if we want to be good stewards of the next generations, is make it as, well, remove as many barriers as possible for these young individuals to want to be on this particular youth council. So if it's a case where this could potentially benefit and maybe get one or two more people involved that can, benefit Wisconsin Rapids and the greater Wisconsin Rapids area, I guess I wouldn't be against trying it out to see what happens. Obviously, everybody's stretched. Even fraternal organizations are not what they used to be. But again, I'm in favor of eliminating barriers. If it isn't a case where the request is so that we don't have public discussion or type of a thing, or it isn't. If it isn't about eliminating public discourse, but rather to encourage more kids to get involved with it, then I say let's try it.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Oh, Mayor.
Sue, I don't recall in the documentation, but do we have a quorum requirement with the youth council?
I
Being that,
don't recall if there's something in their bylaws that said that or not.
Because if that was the case, we probably would have been a long time since we probably have had a quorum. But we still participate and we still go on. But yeah, thank you, Thad. I recognize. I think it's important for that outlet, but to the rise to the level of such a structured organization, I don't know if that's really necessary because it still gives the youth that benefit.
Alderperson Kellogg.
I participated in about 3 years. The last 2 years I haven't, but the only formal requirement was an application in which they had to do a resume. And these students are exceptional students, and quite often it's a challenge to have them participate in sports and other events and so forth and work after school plus this. But to complete a resume, we thought it was good because then they could use that when they apply for college or jobs. And it's a good experience more so. And I can't remember, but I think they had to get 2 teachers to recommend them, and that was not really a problem at all. But it's an exceptional group, and I think it's great. It's getting them involved in politics and getting involved in the community, and they come up with some good ideas, like a movie night in the summer, or some of the other experiences that they come up with, raising money for the fireworks. They did raise money for the fireworks, and maybe for a dog for the police department, things like that. So I think it's great to keep. I don't know if you have to have the formality of it like we were talking about, but as a committee, a side committee, I would recommend continuing it.
Mayor?
Yeah, and we still have that same application process, which would stay in place. So we've been trying to talk to them or the members and kind of find out what they like and disliked, and probably the thing that we heard most was, tours of city operation was the least favorite thing that they did. So, trying to balance, involved in government and, just trying to find their area of interest. But I agree that, the application is a good process to go through, and that still remains.
Anything else? I think it's important to to keep it going, to try to, in that, if a better way, or try it anyway, a less formal setting, different time, maybe even to meet for the group, if there could be a way, where the after-school wouldn't interfere with other activities or something, so maybe there's, would be something that could be come up along with those lines too, but, so, committee,
I'll make a motion to amend Chapter 2 of the Municipal Code to remove the Mayor's Youth Council as a subunit of the council, therefore allowing it to be an informal group.
I'll second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. For that committee, all in favor, respond by aye.
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 Right?
Opposed, ayes have it, 3-0. Item 7. Review and consider for approval an amendment to Chapter 2 of the Municipal Code, which would eliminate term limits for waterworks and lighting commissioners. Jim, now you. I jumped the gun here a few items before.
All right. I'm Jim Brown from Water and Light, also a resident of the city of Wisconsin Rapids, and I want to thank the committee and the mayor for allowing us to agenda these two items this evening. On the term limits, essentially, I don't think they're needed because the council votes on this thing every 5 years, and if they are not happy with the performance of one of our commissioners, then they don't have to re-up his term. And generally, it takes about half to 3/4 through their first term before they're actually getting the concepts and actually contributing to the commission and being a good participant. Also, there are 82 municipal utilities, electric utilities in the state of Wisconsin, none of which, either if they're governed by a commission, which is probably 3/4 of them, or governed by the city, do they have term limits. Essentially, when I was early in my term here as the general manager, I had one of my earlier commissioners who firmly believed in term limits, whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. He thought if Water and Light took it upon themselves to have term limits, then he thought maybe that the council will do the same, which was not a whole lot of logic since nobody in the state does that. So I would like the committee to consider removing the term limits, and if there's somebody that are not happy with that's performing on the commission, then they don't have to re-up his term when his initial term expires. That's all I have on this particular issue, and
Okay.
I'll address any questions you might have.
Thank you, Jim. And I'll just say for myself is that when this, I can't even remember which year it was, but the term limits were put on, that I wasn't really in favor of it at that time to go to it. Having attended some of the Water and Light meetings, and I haven't sat in on, not as a commissioner, but to see what goes on, that it does take some period of time, I think, to get accustomed to what the actual job is, but people that are on there are generally, I think, have had, some experience anyway in, of what their involvement would be, but it's to get on and to, get into the swing of things, how it runs and what their duties are in that, so I would be personally in favor of not having term limits, to go away from them. So we'd still say, I believe, at 5-year terms, I guess, or that's my understanding. And I guess if anybody didn't want to stay on, they could just say they didn't want to stay on, and then it'd open it up for somebody to apply, so.
I'll make a motion to approve removing the term limits.
I'll second that. Is There's no further discussion. Committee will vote. All in favor respond by aye.
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 Steve? Okay, thanks. The vote's 3-0 in favor of eliminating it. Thank you. We'll go to item number 8, preliminary discussion regarding placing delinquent waterworks and lighting commission electric bills on the property tax roll.
All right, thank you this evening for kind of having this discussion and bringing it to the committee here. My name is Jeff Kuhn. I'm the finance director at Water and Light. Just wanted to give a little brief overview, and then we can answer any questions you might have. As you all know, back in March, the Public Service Commission, under the public health emergency, forbid electric, gas, and water utilities to disconnect service for non-payment. And to date, those prohibitions to disconnect residential customers still applies. Really, disconnecting electric service is the key method to have all of our customers pay their past due utility accounts. Without the ability to disconnect in 2020, electric and water past due balances have really increased quite a bit. You can see in the packet that Jem handed out. In August 2020, our past due electric balances are about 50% higher than they were the previous August. And water's is up about 133% when you compare August of this year to August of 19. If the PSC continues to not allow us to disconnect utilities into 2021, the financial strength of the utility might be jeopardized. In my opinion, it's inequitable for customers that choose not to pay their utility bills is covered by everybody, and to kind of socialize those costs amongst all the ratepayers. At the utility, we do utilize collection tools when applicable, but again, we find the best collection tool is the ability to disconnect service when the customer is an active customer. However, another really strong tool is the tax roll process. For rental properties, landlords have the ability to collect security deposits, require tenants to stay current on their utility bill as a requirement of their lease. Landlords also have an additional resources to determine the creditworthiness of who they're renting to and can make decisions based off those factors. As the vast majority of Wisconsin's 82 municipal utilities do have this authority to tax roll electric, under the Wisconsin statutes, all water utilities have the ability to tax roll water and sewer, but there needs to be a local ordinance to be able to tax roll electric. And most of those 82 municipal utilities do have that. As is the case with the water bill on tax roll, any past due amounts shouldn't come as a surprise to landlords. We do send out monthly notices to landlords showing them which tenants have past due amounts with us. And then right now with the water tax roll, if they do make those payments, they do get a lien on a tenant's personal property that they can file with the clerk of courts. And again, if, when this discussion happens, if we get down the road, the utility has no desire to have tax roll process be the only method to collect past due accounts. We would still utilize our programs we have today. It would just be another tool that we're hopefully looking for to be able to collect some past due arrearages.
Questions by anybody? This was for preliminary discussion purposes this evening. Steve, do you have anything?
No, no, just kind of soaking it in here, Tom. Tom, can I ask a question to Jim?
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Jim, for this to go on the property tax roll, that would only be for the property that has the delinquent or past due water and light bill, correct?
Correct. We presently do that for water, but we need a city ordinance in order to do it on the electric side of things. Okay, did you hear me?
I know. Yeah, I heard.
Okay.
I know this is a preliminary discussion, but Waterworks and Lighting is a city-owned utility, and it's in the best interest of all city residents that the utility is allowed to recoup the money that they provide or for the services they provide, and if they can't get their money one way, they got to get it another way, and if this is the other way they can get it, I'm okay with it. I know part of the problem is sometimes with renters that rent out houses, but I know there's legal actions that landlords have, which is like in some cases they can sue for 3 times the amount of security deposit, withhold security deposits. I mean, they certainly have recourse on their tenants if they incur bills. So I certainly don't expect our Waterworks and Lighting Commission to have to write off money for services that they provide in good faith to every city resident.
Thank you, Alderperson Coth. Mayor, do you have something? Okay.
I was just I kind of knew the numbers, and I just wanted to confirm it's okay. And so the electric past due currently is about $750,000, just over $700,000. And the 3 past due, we're talking electric, water, and sewer right now and storm is over $3 million. So it is a considerable amount of money.
Sue, how would we proceed forward with this if we wanted to
Well,
do something?
right. You could have me prepare an ordinance to that effect to actually bring right to the next council meeting if you wanted, and we would put it on the agenda for the council meeting. Or you could have me prepare an ordinance for your next legislative meeting to consider. So, I mean, it's on the agenda as something that's being talked about, and I guess if you want to direct me to have an ordinance for the council meeting, I could do that. Or else, if you want to have another legislative committee meeting with the ordinance in front of you, then.
Okay. Alderperson Kubichat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Sue, is this something that we can put, because I'd rather not have it on the full council agenda direct from here, but can we compel this to the Finance Committee, have you draw up an ordinance for that? We'd put it as the Finance Committee agenda and then have that for the council meeting.
Sure, if you want to do that, and then at least that committee is considering it, which
I'll make
would be
a motion.
fine if you're fine with that, yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll make a motion to compel the city attorney to draft an ordinance in regards to this discussion and have it placed on the next Finance Committee agenda. And Steve, I don't know, are you working on that agenda? Have you completely submitted it? I know we didn't see it via email yet. Is that something that we can quick get on the Finance Committee?
Today's Tuesday. I normally put the cutoff for noon on Tuesday, but I'll talk with the city clerk and see if she'd be willing to add it. Because I don't believe the agenda has been published yet. So if we can get that in there, I'm okay with it. I'll send an email as soon as we wrap up the meeting here.
Okay, so then how about this? My motion will be to compel the city attorney to draft an ordinance in regards to this and send it to the Finance Committee. If that's not applicable because of time delays, then I will be fine with having it as a standalone agenda item on the full city council.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, committee will vote on that. All in favor, respond by aye.
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 Steve, okay, thank you. Opposed is 0, so the vote passes 3-0. And with that, thank you, gentlemen, for sticking around for a period of time to get to your item here. Okay. And with that, just before we adjourn, I'd like to, because that's our next item, and I meant to mention it under number 5, about talking about all committees, commissions, and boards. I'd like to keep that discussion going. I actually do have some copies of another community that I made some copies of some of their different boards and that committees of what they do. So I'd just like to give everybody here one, that if I have enough for it, to look this over. And I guess if there's any thoughts, either that you get from this or thoughts of your own, of what you'd like to see, maybe how a committee operates or what the duties are of a committee. Is it the right committee that's doing it, or should it be a different committee or something like that? So.
And then, Mr. Chairperson, not to interrupt, would you be willing to submit that to the clerk's office so that they can disseminate it to all of us electronically then, whatever information you got?
Okay, sure. Will do. And with that, if there's nothing else, entertain a motion, go to number 9, and that's the motion, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. A motion, a second to adjourn. All in favor, respond by aye.
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 Opposed, ayes have it, 3-0. The meeting's adjourned at 6:55 PM. Thank you.